Hi, Taylor T. Carlson, and more additions to my vinyl collection. If you know me at all, you know that I'm a Kiss fan, and one of the most interesting things in the history of Kiss is that the band released solo albums in the fall of 1978. 4 solo albums all on the same day, one for each band member. And there's definitely been a lot of debate over the years as to who put out the best solo album, who did the worst one, what the best and worst tracks are amongst these albums, and I finally got all 4 of them on vinyl, so we're going to take a look. I'm going to unbox the discs I've got. Okay, to start off, we have the Gene Simmons solo album. Here's the back cover. One of the most noteworthy things about Gene Simmons' solo album is the amount of guest stars that he got to appear on the record. Listen to all these people that are on here. Bob Seger, Joe Perry from Aerosmith, Helen Reddy, Jeff Skunk Baxter, Donna Summer, Janice Ian, Rick Nielsen, Cher. The list goes on. He assembled a pretty surprisingly good cast of characters for his record, and you look at these band members, you look at the list of guests, no shortage of talent here. So we'll open this up. Each one of the solo albums comes in this sleeve that pictures all 4 solo albums, and when you take the record out and you look at the Casablanca sticker, it has the image of that band member. So right there's Gene's head in the middle of all that. Also included with each of these is a poster that's one part of 4, and these have like puzzle piece edges so that you can put them all together and make one big poster from the 4. So at the end of this video, I'll put all of these together and we can get an idea of what they look like. Gene's solo album was one of the biggest surprises because people were probably expecting this evil, scary, demonic hard rock album, but Gene gave audiences more of a pop album, so to speak. There are some great tunes to be had on here despite that, even if it wasn't what people were expecting. Radioactive is a great classic rocker featuring an eerie chanting nun intro from Janice Ian. There's some other great tunes like Burning Up with Fever, and then you got a few more pop-flavored songs on here and even a few ballads. One of the biggest oddities on here is he actually does a cover of the old Disney song When You Wish Upon a Star. And it's not even a rock and roll cover, it's a surprisingly faithful cover of the song. I'm not going to say this album is perfect. It's certainly not the best of the 4, but there's no shortage of excellent tracks on here to rediscover. Just don't come out here expecting, a hard rock album, because that's certainly not what's here. Okay, moving on down the list, the second solo album we're going to take a look at is Paul Stanley. The Star Child, of course, generally regarded as the voice of Kiss, and not surprisingly, he made some pretty good music here. Guests on this album include the late great Bob Kulick, who we just lost earlier this year, as well as on one track, Carmine Appice on drums. Great cast of characters here. Here's the back cover. Got a list of the tracks and the guest stars, band members, production crew, so forth. We'll take a look at the actual record itself. Turn this around so we can see Paul's head on the record. Yeah, right there. And Paul Stanley's album is the album, not surprisingly, that's the closest in style to the Kiss albums of the era. It's like Paul just decided he was going to go make a Kiss album without the other guys from Kiss. And what's really scary about this is he actually succeeds. There are some great tunes to be had here, like the opening anthem, Tonight You Belong to Me. Take Me Away Together is one, the track that features Carmine Appice on drums. Love in Chains is a fantastic rocker, and again, probably the most Kiss-sounding of the solo albums, but that's certainly not a bad thing. And we'll take a look at the Paul Stanley puzzle piece of the poster here. And we'll move on to our next entry in the solo album series. This is Ace Frehley, the Spaceman. This album was noteworthy because it was the one that featured the song New York Groove, which actually ended up being the biggest hit song of any of the solo albums. Ace Frehley, interestingly, had never done vocals on a Kiss song until Shock Me, which was on their 6th album, but by this point I think he'd developed enough confidence that he could do lead vocals on a full album, and the man does not disappoint. And of course, here's the back cover, got a list of the songs to be had here. Rip It Out is a great hard rockin' intro. Then you have rockers like, Snowblind, Speeding Back to My Baby. The pop anthem New York Groove, actually a cover of an old Russ Ballard song, which became the biggest hit from the solo albums. And the fantastic acoustic instrumental ballad of sorts, Fractured Mirror, which closes out the album. The band on here includes the likes of Anton Fig, who would appear on a lot of Ace's subsequent solo stuff. He'd also be the drummer in David Letterman's band later on, and it's no surprise a lot of people do call this their favorite album of the 4. And once again, we've got our sleeve here. We'll look at the sticker on the sleeve, and you can see Ace's face right there. And we'll go ahead and look at our puzzle piece poster segment. And here's Ace in poster form. It's also interesting to note that each one of these solo albums has at least one cover song on it. With the exception of Paul Stanley, all the tracks on there are originals. And the 4th and final album in this set is the Peter Criss solo album. This was more of an R&B album than a rock album. And a lot of people have bashed this album because it's totally not what they expected. They came in expecting a Kiss album, and instead they've got this R&B album that's a far cry from what bands, especially Kiss, were doing at the time. And I think people who give this album a chance develop a soft spot for it, but you have to know what to expect coming in, or else you're going to walk away disappointed as many others have. And here we got our record, and of course on the Casablanca sleeve there we got Peter Criss's face. But there are some good songs on here, despite what a lot of people have said over the years. I mean, I'm Gonna Love You is a solid intro track. You Matter to Me is a good cut. You got the cover of Tossin' and Turnin', classic old R&B tune, and I'm not going to go through each and every track here, but it's better than people make it out to be. I mean, it's probably still my least favorite of the 4 solo albums, but the people who call this terrible, I don't agree with them there at all. So overall, how would I rank the 1978 Kiss solo albums? Ace Frehley's album comes in first. It's the most straightforward rock album of the bunch, and it absolutely does not disappoint. Ironically, New York Groove is probably my least favorite track on the album, but so many classic hard rockers and even a little bit of diversity. I mean, he can go from doing really hard rock, heavy metal tunes to doing something like Fractured Mirror to close out the record. I'd probably put Gene and Paul's albums right in the middle. Paul's album, again, it's a lot like a Kiss album. It feels like he made a Kiss album by himself without the other guys from Kiss, and succeeded in doing so. Gene's I'd put right about on the same level. It's more of a pop album than people were expecting, but it's actually some surprisingly good pop, and you got a ton of guest stars on there, which is very impressive. And I would put the Peter Criss album in last, although I don't hate this album. There actually are some surprisingly good R&B tunes on here, and people who come in knowing what to expect and who don't expect a hard rock album or a Kiss album, who put their initial reservations aside, should decently like what they find, although I know the album does still have its detractors. Of these 4 albums, which is your favorite? Which is your least favorite? Comment down below and let me know what you think. Also remember to subscribe to my channel for additional content, and like this video if you found it helpful. I'm Taylor T. Carlson, and I will see you in my next video.